Hello, hi, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the webinar series of Praan Foundation, Not All Talk. I would like to welcome everybody for this particular webinar, which is called You Ask, We Answer, which is an opportunity for all the members following our community on various social media platforms to ask us questions, on the theme of the month. So just to, recollect, the theme of the month is this month we're talking about is working from home, especially during the pandemic. And like we're all aware that it has been quite a roller coaster ride for those who used to go out to work and are now working from home. The shift is so, it's so apparent and it's so obvious that it has caused a lot of changes in our lives. And we are now coming together here to answer some questions from all you lovely people out there. So first of all, thank you so much for sending us your questions. And we have received a lot of questions all across, and I'm sorry, but we might not be able to answer all the questions. But what we have done is that we have clubbed common questions together, and in the next half an hour, we're going to try to answer as many questions as possible. So please do stay tuned with us and find out answers to some really relevant, really good questions that all of you have asked us. So with me here today, we're going to be having our volunteer of the month, one of our volunteers who's a first responder, Miss Sasha Agarwal. So just before we get her live, I want to introduce Sasha. So Sasha is presently a gap year student at Harvard University. Her education interests lie in neurosciences and psychology. Sasha's been doing some really brilliant work on menstrual hygiene, on mental health, and on child rights. She's also the founder of the Kolkata chapter of the Period Society and the co-founder of Stimulus. So let's just wait till I get Sasha online with us. Hey,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy that you've been able to do this with us, Sasha. It's really good to see you as a first responder, and then for you to be the volunteer of the month, and then to come here with us. It's just been really great.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be a first responder and do all of this incredible work.
Always, always welcome. Right. So, guys, Sasha is going to be getting all the questions, and she's going to ask the questions, and I'm going to try and answer all of the questions. So, Sasha, if you're ready,
Absolutely, I'm ready. So
let's go.
today, yeah, as most of you might be knowing, we're going to be talking about managing your work-life balance during the pandemic. And I think especially with the pandemic coming in, our lives have changed overnight, right? And I think some of the challenges are that number one, the way we view our workplace and the way our workplace looks, so the way our schools and educational institutions look, have obviously changed drastically. It's changed from a physical space to an entirely virtual space, which of course creates a lot of uncertainty and fear and apprehension. And I think another issue that is so important for us to address today is just the fact that since we're working from home now, that ability to compartmentalize our professional or
Yeah.
educational and personal lives has really, really been hindered just because our professional lives are now kind of bleeding into the time that we'd otherwise use for ourselves or for self-care because, we have our laptops with us all the time. It's so easy to get on Zoom meetings at any hour of the day. And while that's convenient, that also eats into the time that we'd otherwise keep aside for ourselves.
That's
So,
absolutely a really, really nice crux and looks like, the assignment for the month for the volunteers. And, all of that has also given all of us, I mean, I know that as volunteers, you guys have gotten a really great insight into what it actually looks for people while going through the entire thing. But each and every report that has come in from all of you also gives us a lot of insight. Maybe things we know, but, with the reports coming in and reading a lot every day, we've now started to acknowledge what is actually happening out there. And I think that the way you've put it, you've kind of covered all the basic stressors that we have today. So I just think that let's actually, get into questions and, let's see. I mean, I'm really excited actually to see what people have to ask us.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, that brings us to the first question. Our first
Right.
question is, what tips do you have for students and working adults to manage their work life during a pandemic?
Right. I think this is one of the most common questions, one of the most common concerns, and one of the most common stressors that people have been experiencing. Like you were just saying, that it's so easy for us to have a laptop with us at all times, and it's just so easy that our professional time just bleeds into our personal time and all of that. So just certain, like about a few tips and strategies that people can really use is have a designated area at home, where you're actually sitting and where you're actually working, and make that your home space. Even if you were going to office, or even if you were going to school or college for that matter, it was not like you're going to go all around the place, right? You do dedicate in college a particular place to read, which is your library, a particular place to study, which is a classroom, a particular place to play, which is like your playgrounds. So having a designated area kind of gives you mentally a space for you to be able to assess that, hey, you know what, this is where I'm going to sit and this is where I'm going to do my work. So that's one idea. Apart from that, it's really, really good to be able to uh, design a particular time. I know that, now with a lot of people being sacked and, a lot of work pressure coming on those who stay back. And also the fact that because you're constantly worried that, with the pandemic, if you're going to lose your job, right? So you also put in way too much efforts. But we are not able to understand the kind of toll that it's going to have on our health for a longer period of time. So it's okay. Talk to your supervisors if you have pressure. If talk to your colleagues about what you're experiencing, and maybe if it's bleeding away too much of your personal time, politely say no. I have my plate full. I can't take it. And that's one more strategy. Apart from that, try to stick to your normal as much as possible. Like wake up in the morning, get ready. Like you don't have to wear like a fancy dress that you might wear, but don't sit in your PJs all day long. Like, what, get ready for work and sit like you're meaning to work. Because then when your day gets over and you get out of those clothes, you're like, mentally you get a signal that, hey, you know what, my time is now over. I'm like probably going to watch a movie. I'm probably going to like sit and, speak with my family, or I'm going to do something, very interactive with my family. So personally, let's do that one particular thing. Just another thing apart from this is, I think you were speaking about self-care. So we do have an opportunity. So, earlier when we used to really be working, I think a great amount of time of people would really get lost in commute, right? To move from one place to another, to travel from a place to another. So maybe, see how you can positively utilize that commute time. Maybe for self-care, maybe for doing an activity that you've really been wanting to do but have not been able to do. So I think those are some strategies, quick strategies, everyday use strategies that people can put into place to see that their work life is as normal as it was before the pandemic.
That's so true. That's so true. I couldn't agree more. And I think especially the point about just designating a space to work is so important because, if you're working from bed, you're going to end up associating your sleeping place or your relaxation place with a place of stress and work. And I think that also ends up leading to very disturbed sleep patterns, and it just has so many ramifications. So I think those are
Yeah.
such incredible tips.
I think, in addition to what you've said, there's been a
Mhm.
research, I don't remember, I think it was by Harvard or Oxford or something,
Yeah.
where these people studied why most people cannot go to sleep. And some revelations that they did was that we go to bed and we're on our phone for a great period of time, or probably we're watching a movie from bed. So the association that happens is very, very different. All right. You start associating your bed as a place of entertainment or as a place of relaxation. So when you really want to put yourselves to sleep, you don't think that, uh, the bed is as good as, putting you or taking you to that sort of relaxation. Well, that also, all that said and done, especially if you associate it with stress, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to be able to relax in bed. So beds may be a big no.
Absolutely, absolutely. I could not agree more. And okay, so the next question, to move on to the next question, it asks, how has the pandemic affected working women and what strategies can they use to feel better?
So, the pandemic has opened a different Pandora's box for all working women because of a few reasons that specifically stay true to what is in India. All right. In India, women do always manage to, take care of their household and take care of their work. And in most cases, it would be like you wake up in the morning, you are done with your household chores, you're going to work, you're coming back, and then you're stepping into your household chores. But this entire line or this entire timetable that was fixed is now blurred. Okay. So you might, and again, with staying at home, like, cooking is something that does take up quite some time. So with staying at home, I think many families, at least most of what we have seen, are expecting like hot lunches. Okay. So, woman is in the morning, she's making breakfast, and then, she's going back in the afternoon, and then she's cooking lunch, which is eating away a lot into her working time. Now, apart from this, household help, that is, your maids or servants that come up, are a big system in India. All right. When you see that, and we really, really depend on these people. So, with the pandemic and with the lockdown, especially, it was really difficult for household help to come in. All right. Now, another added stressor is not a stressor, but another thing that adds to the entire gamut of stress is that children are at home, right? So they're like having their class somewhere, your husband's having a meeting somewhere, and everybody has different schedules. So you have to, accommodate yourselves to these schedules. So a lot of them have been seeing a lot of stress because of this. Now, what women can do is that they can communicate that this is what they, this is what their schedule looks like. And, this is when they have a meeting, or this is when they have, a particular task to complete, and probably they're not going to be able to accommodate the requests of everybody. That is one thing women can do. Another thing that we have come up often is that a lot of women feel that it is only their prime responsibility to take care of the household. So there have been situations where women have denied taking help from others. That is, their husband says that maybe I'll do a small task, or their children say, there has been a probability where some people or some women, at least those, some of them reported to us, said that they did not feel comfortable taking help. So it is to these women that I would want to go out and say that you're already doing everything possible, under your blanket of responsibilities. And this is a very empathetic shout out to women that, hey, it's okay to take help. All right. It's absolutely fine to accept help from people. And to those, I've also come across adolescents or young adults telling that I really want to help my mother, but she refuses to take my help. So to those young adults or to those adolescents, I would like to say that, you know what, go out and start taking tasks voluntarily to show your mother or to show the working woman in the house, whoever it is, your wife, your mother, your bhabhi, or whatever. Maybe, show to her that you're capable of taking up these responsibilities. So I think that is the Pandora's box that has opened up. And these are some strategies that, we can apply to make sure that, even women are going through the entire thing safely.
That's so true again. I couldn't have put it better myself. And I think, despite the progress that the 21st century has seen, in India, I think gender roles are still so entrenched that caretaking responsibilities of children and housekeeping responsibilities do still fall disproportionately upon women, whether it's them taking those responsibilities up themselves or them or those responsibilities being imposed on them. So yeah, I think
Absolutely.
it's so important to realize that, saying no is, like you said in your previous answer, it's so important to learn when to say no, to know when your body is going into overdrive. And saying no or saying, I need some help is never ever a sign of weakness. It's just a
Yeah,
sign of being aware of your own capabilities and being able to compartmentalize.
yeah,
That's so
that's
true.
absolutely True. Saying no should never, and I think irrespective of your gender, saying no should never, ever, ever be a sign of weakness. I think that that statement is spot on. We need to stop associating saying no to being weak or, not being good enough. It's not that you're weak or it's not that you're not capable of doing it, but it's just about, sharing it wholly and solely. So I think that's the idea with that answer.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think saying no is honestly more empowering and points more towards you asserting yourself than displaying or demonstrating weakness.
That's
Awesome.
true.
So the next question that we have is the constant and increased work time has led me to compromise taking care of myself. So what do you have for that?
So, I think I can't like you give me 10 hours to speak about this answer and I would just keep going on. There is one very essential part of being a human being, and that is basically self-care. And you're aware, like in our volunteer program, we make it a point to talk about self-care because it is so essential. Like I would like to term it as self-care, the first calling. You cannot ignore your health or ignore your well-being and go out there and do things that people want you to do or you need to do for people either way. I just would like to say that there's WHO, the World Health Organization. It says that self-care is what people do for themselves to establish and maintain health, to prevent and deal with illnesses. While this is the health perspective of self-care, it applies very similarly to when I would say what it does for your mental peace, your image of your own selves, as simple as that, really, really comes from the fact of how you're taking care of yourselves. A lot of us feel that it's okay to stretch ourselves and it's okay to go beyond the calling of people to do what is needed. And while in certain situations that might be it, but if you keep doing that constantly, you're going to reach a stage of such exhaustion that you're not going to probably just be able to get out of bed the next day. It's that detrimental, okay, that it can be so destructive. Now, the problem here is that when we're talking about self-care, we usually do not understand what self-care is and what self-care is not. Like today, if I go to a spa and I spend say 2,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees, and you know what, it's causing a financial burden on me, or it's probably making me shell a lot of money. That's probably not self-care, because then that's going to give me a mental stressor of a different sort. All right. Maybe something as simple as eating healthy, doing meditation, being mindful of what you're doing, taking short little breaks, not like a big stretch, but maybe like within your day. All right. Maybe sticking, when I spoke about sticking to normal, maybe you work like from 10 to 12:30, and then 12:30 to 12:45 you take a tea or a coffee break, right? It just helps you de-stress yourselves. Maybe a call with a colleague, seeking professional help. These are all the ways that self-care can be reinstated. We have come across a lot of people who, due to the pandemic and due to these long working hours, or due to a lot of like work pressure, have stopped taking care of themselves. Like I used to do yoga in the morning, but now I have to wake up in the morning and I need to be done with cooking and everything. Otherwise, like the day is gone. It's gone for a toss. Or I used to like take a walk with my husband, or as simple as I used to look out of the window for 15-20 minutes, and it used to relax me, right? So if you are not taking care of yourself, self care, like if you're not taking care of yourself, and you do it for a very long time, you're going to have such devastating effects that God bless you. I think that's all I'm going to say. That it's really, really going to harm you in ways that you cannot foresee. So please, to the person who's asked this question to us, and to everybody who's joined us here today, and everybody who's going to see this in the future, please make sure that you take care of yourselves, you give yourselves that much time, because there is nothing more precious than loving yourselves. If you want to achieve anything in life, you want to achieve something in terms of a better grade, you want to achieve something in terms of a better salary, a better position, maybe like write a book, or like become like an Oscar winner. everything requires some amount of mental health and self-care. So I think that's how important it is.
That's again so true. And I think those values were also reflected in the training program that we underwent as first responders, because it was constantly conveyed to us that no matter how pressing our duties as a first responder may be, it's always important to first prioritize ourselves and ensure that we're okay. Because unless we're taking care of ourselves, unless we give ourselves that time to refuel and bounce back, we aren't going to be able to perform to our optimum potential. We aren't going to be able to take care of anyone else if we haven't taken care of ourselves first. So that's so important.
I think I always parallel self-care to a very simple example. Like, when you're flying in an airplane, right? You have the announcements that happen before the flight takes off.
Mm-hmm.
And there is this particular announcement by the flight attendant that please wear
Mm-hmm.
your oxygen mask before, helping anybody else wear the oxygen mask whenever the, whatever, pressure is like low or whatever. I think that's literally what self-care is. If you ever want to be able to help anybody, you need to know how to help yourselves, and there's nothing like it.
Absolutely. I mean, that was the perfect analogy. And just leading to the next question, I remember you speaking about that point at which your body is so exhausted that it resists your attempts to even get out of bed. You stretched yourself too thin. And I think that juncture is burnout. So speaking about burnout, how do we know that we're experiencing burnout, and what do we do when we're experiencing burnout? And also, how can we prevent reaching that point?
Right. So there are three parts to this question. Okay. How do we understand that, we've reached burnout? How do we prevent? And once we know that we are probably in and around the burnout stage, what do we do? Okay. So how do you know that you have reached burnout? In very simple terms, you just do not have the energy to work anymore. Like, you're exhausted. You might have just slept for like 8 or 10 hours straight, but you just do not have the capability to get up and move out. Okay, that could be one sign of burnout. What I've seen a lot. I mean, a lot of people do not speak about this, but another great sign of burnout is excessive cynicism towards the job that you're doing. So I would have like been very, very passionate about becoming a counselor. But if at all there comes a day where one day I stop and I'm continuously just criticizing or looking at all the bad things that the job has done to me or that has happened to me as a person because of the job, then it's going to be very difficult. Like, that's basically a sign of burnout. You don't have any energy within yourselves to express emotions. Like, you're just living. You're probably not happy. You're probably not sad. You don't get angry anymore, because we need to understand that emotions also take a lot of energy. But my body does not have that much energy to, pull it together and, even express myself. Apart from that, you might have like headaches, you might have body pains all the time. So those could be like some of the physical symptoms. And your performance at work would be really, really bad. Like, you might feel that you're putting in your best efforts, but you're still not able to perform. And this is not in general terms. This is in terms to how good you used to perform. So if I was like, if so, for example, I was working at a call center and I had the energy to make like 200 calls in 12 hours. Now that drastically falls down to 50 calls in 12 hours. Okay. So that is another sign of a burnout. So these are some of the signs of burnout, specifically the cynicism, the emotional exhaustion, the physical exhaustion, and all of that. Now, how do you deal with it? You just self-care. I think that's like the go-to word. And maybe, taking a break. Now, when I say a break, a vacation, one vacation is not going to like belt everything out and like you're going to come back to work and you're going to be like all energized. You need to like take shorter breaks, all right? And you need to keep doing that very often. You have to like, space it out. You need to be able to decide that, what, it's getting too much. I need to take like a breather, step back, indulge in self-care. Now that you know what the signs of burnout are, be aware, okay? Am I reaching a stage which makes me feel A, B, C, D, E? So, maybe you're like about to reach burnout. And, these are some ways in which you can identify and, prevent burnout or, deal with burnout. In addition to this, specifically with burnout, if you think that you're exhausted, seek professional help. There is still a lot of taboo about seeking professional help. We feel that I can manage it. Or, I've also seen in some situations where, people really like, some of us know the importance of professional help. Seeking it, especially, when we're experiencing a lot of distress. But there are others who might, put us down and be like, you don't need it, just take a break, just take a vacation. I think it's very important for us to be able to identify these signs of distress and then maybe, seek professional help.
I think all of that is so true. And I think one point that you mentioned about, how one single vacation isn't going to change the way you work and cure everything, and you should be taking shorter, more continuous breaks. I think that's so important because just when you're trying to figure out what kinds of self-care practices work for you, it's so important to choose practices that are sustainable and that you can cultivate and keep going, right? And the other thing that you mentioned about seeking professional help, again, so important. I think there's this misconception, especially in our society, that you need to have a diagnosable mental illness to be eligible to seek help or to need to seek help. And that is so not true. Therapy, any kind of counseling can help you just be the best version of yourself, even if you don't have a mental illness per se. So, yeah, all of
Yeah,
that is so
I
important.
mean, I think the stigma, Sasha, for this comes from everywhere. It's just, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I've just given
Yeah.
one example where, people close to you are, maybe like not letting you take help, but it's everywhere. It's like the society in general. And if we need to change this, we really, really need to do something about it. And it needs to be drastic. Because I believe change is something that happens over time, but you need
Mm-hmm.
like consistent and drastic efforts to keep reminding the world that, hey, you know what, you need it. All right. Maybe the pandemic is a drastic way to make us realize that, we're way too away from our families, or that there is some sort of social bonding, that we need some sort of social bonding. We don't need, maybe, the importance of, family time, living together, understanding an alternate way the world can work. So I'm sure, like, so everything that happens is basically signs for you to pick up on, and definitely positive and negative, right? You just need to pick what you want, leave what you don't want, and then, just keep moving forward.
So important, especially with the pandemic. I think so many of us have been alone at home, and it's just reminded us of the need to recenter and be in touch with our own emotions and just be comfortable with ourselves and with our own thoughts. So, yeah, I couldn't have put that better. So, going to the next question, this reads, is it okay to multitask?
Wow, this is like a very right. So multitasking, I think, is not to do with you can't say if you can or you cannot multitask. I mean, sorry, I can't say that if you can or you cannot. I think multitasking is more of a personality trait. Okay, some people have the ability to multitask. Some people do not have the ability to multitask. So, for the person who has sent out this question to us, I would just want to say that maybe try it once or twice. Okay, like try taking up a handful of responsibilities. Be extremely aware of how your body, how your mind, or how your emotions are when you're taking up so many things. Are you able to pull it off? Do you get really exhausted? Is it too much? Do you like start getting very agitated? Do you get like very angry? Do you get very cynical when you're doing it? Or are you able to like get through it? Yes, it's a stressor. I mean, definitely. But I think there's this thing, right? There's eustress and then there is distress. So eustress is basically good stress, which pushes you to complete a work. Like, so maybe like there's a deadline tomorrow morning and I stay up all night to, rush up and complete the work that I have to do. That's eustress because that's helping me in a productive way. And distress is basically the feeling of exhaustion, or not being able to do more, and the worry actually stopping you from doing anything you want to do. So I think once, if an individual identifies if they're experiencing eustress or distress, then they can take a call for themselves. However, if at any point in time as an individual you feel that you're not able to do these tasks, learn the art of saying no. All right. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be, like, I can't do it, just like go away. You just have to be assertive in saying that. And I think that if you're assertively saying it with a logical enough reason, I don't think there's anybody in the world who can like pressurize you to do more than what you're doing. So if you're not able to multitask and you identify your body signs, which you're self-aware and you're able to do it, just be able to say no, maybe assertively, and don't take up more than what you can.
So true, so true. And I think, like you said, every person's body and mind responds differently to the same stressors. And I think that's also why productivity and success and achievement should never be a race, and it's relative to every single individual. And the only person you should be competing with is yourself.
Yes,
That's so important.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I mean, yeah, this is something that I always tell everybody who comes to me,
Mhm.
and tells me things like, hey, you know what, she's so old or he's so old and he's achieved so much in life. And my question to these people is always, how much did you achieve 3 years ago? And they're like XYZ, and I'm like, how much did you achieve today? And they're like XYZ ABC. I was like, so that's your milestone. Your milestone can never be. And I'm like, everybody is different. I mean, more than the fact that you're internally different, what also matters is your external environment, like where you come from, what community, like everything, internally, externally, all these factors really, really affect your growth and development. And all these need to be taken into account in designing, understanding, and assessing your personality.
So true. I couldn't have put that better. And that brings me to the last question for the day. This isn't really a question, it's a statement. It reads, I blame myself for not handling my work and personal life. So what words would you have for the person who sent this in?
Hello to the person who sent this in. And I would just like to say that it's very natural, I mean, each one of us do set some expectations from ourselves, and all of us strive really hard every day to be able to achieve these, steps. So, whatever you want to call them, like whatever you've set for yourselves in life. Um, at times, there are situations and you can't achieve them. In this scenario, people specifically who do have very high expectations from themselves, or probably people who are very self-aware, people who are a little critical towards themselves, or come up from an upbringing where they have like always been seen under a microscope for what they're doing, they tend to blame themselves a lot. To this person, I'm going to say, hey, you know what? It's okay. It's absolutely fine for you to feel this way. But I also want to tell you this, that each one of us is experiencing this today, specifically because of the fact that we're, in the midst of such uncertain times. All of us feel that somewhere we have let ourselves down. And to share this, on the platform, I want to motivate you to just not give up. All right. Just like have some hope and, maybe try strategies that work for you. Speak with your colleagues, speak with people at home, see what they're doing. And, try to see if you can do something similar, imbibe it in your life, and try to work around that. But if at such uncertain times you're going to blame yourselves, it's only going to have certain negative repercussions which we really don't want. All right, because it's already like a little low, a little gloomy, and what we want is hope. So keep striving for hope. And whenever the self cynicism or this criticism happens inside you, maybe try to use it as a motivator to see uh, you know, try and look for motivation to see if you can use this criticism in any positive way. All right, anything that's going to help you get through the day. For people who are speaking with people who are feeling this, like specifically the first responders who've probably joined us for this call, I want to tell you that if you're speaking to a person who experiences a lot of self blame, be empathetic towards them, speak to them, try to understand where they're coming from, and give them hope. Like these people, you like just give them hope, tell them and discuss strategies, because you know what, a person who's so criticistic about themselves is probably also, I'm going to say to some extent, is ready to work on it. Okay, like there'll be both kinds. But if you find that this is a workup, and is willing to work on what's happening. Discuss strategies with them, and see what you can do to make it better for them.
That's so true. And I think, even though it's so important to hold yourself accountable and to know where you're going wrong and kind of identify what you can do better or where you aren't performing enough, it's also just so important to remember that we're living in the middle of a pandemic. These are unprecedented, incredibly dynamic times. And just the fact that we're getting through each day is an achievement in itself.
No, I think we should actually take that as a blessing. I think we have a question from Janisha. You want me to read it out?
I can read it out, yeah.
Great.
So she asked tips for new mothers who are working and managing homes and are extremely stressed.
Janisha, I think that's a very, very relevant question. And to share with you, I do have a friend who's a new mother, and she's trying to like manage work and she's trying to manage home, and it's very difficult. I think this is something that I told her, and that's what I'm going to say right now. That in this case, always look out for individuals who can support you. And in this particular situation, it's kind of okay to rely on somebody for help. uh, you know, find out if there is anybody who can like move in with your in-laws or move in with your, ask your husband for extra support. Do not shy off from telling people around you that, you know what, this situation is very, very difficult for me and I need help. I did see a drastic change in my own friend from when she did not seek help. Because what happens is that, we're in the middle of a pandemic, but even if we were not in the middle of a pandemic, I think new mothers always have this problem. And they always experience, stress because it's about taking care of another life. It's all about, managing everything. In this particular situation, Janisha, let this person go out and let this person seek support. I am sure that somebody in their network will be willing to help them. Because everybody in the society understands the sensitivity that we have towards this particular, population of people. So reach out, seek help. While the child is sleeping, especially, try to catch on your sleep. Because I think sleeping, like your patterns totally change as a person, right? So try to accommodate the child into your patterns, or, accommodate yourselves into the infant's pattern, whatever works for you. So try to do that. And I think slowly it'll get better. If you are speaking to somebody who's a new mother and is trying to handle too much, again, like I said for the previous question, give them hope and try to strategize with them as to what can they practically do. Or, probably try and, I know it's not really possible, but, try and train the child to sleep when you're working or whatever. So, you need to manage between bits and pieces. But the biggest help is going to come when you go and tell people that, hi, I need help. It's not working out for me.
Absolutely. It's so important to know when you need help and be receptive to actually asking for help and receiving it. And that it's like we discussed earlier, that's never a sign of weakness.
Never, never. All right. Great.
So yeah, I think that's all the questions we have for today.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Janisha. You should definitely convey this, and maybe, we can discuss this further when we meet you. So again, on behalf of all of us at Praan, I really want to thank you, Sasha, for joining us for this question and answers. And I look forward for seeing you around.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for taking all the initiatives that you take and doing everything that you do, and for giving us the opportunity to work as first responders and try and create the impact that we want to see. So thank you so much. This has been such an incredible conversation.
Thank you, Sasha. I'll see you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.